My name is Loretta Sims, and I want to tell you about the day I walked into my life insurance company's office to update my beneficiary information and discovered that somebody had already tried to access my policy. Not somebody pretending to be me online. Not a random scammer. Someone who knew my name, my information, and details they should never have had. And what they tried to do was serious enough that an insurance fraud investigator had already spent 3 weeks building a criminal case before I even knew one existed. The investigator was waiting for me in the lobby when I arrived. She stood up the moment she saw me, introduced herself as Dana Pruitt, and said 6 words I will never forget. "Ms. Sims, we've been expecting you." At the time, I had no idea those 6 words were about to change the way I looked at my family forever. Because this story didn't start with fraud. It started years earlier with my husband. My husband, Gerald, was the kind of man who planned ahead. The kind of man who paid bills early, kept records organized, and believed protecting the people you loved wasn't something you talked about, it was something you did. We lived in Indianapolis, Indiana. We were married for 22 years. We never had children. That was a grief we carried quietly together. But we built a good life anyway. A paid-off home, modest savings, a marriage built on trust. And 18 years before he died, Gerald purchased a life insurance policy naming me as the sole beneficiary. $400,000. Not because we expected tragedy, because Gerald believed preparation was another form of love. 4 years ago, he suffered a heart attack in our kitchen. One moment he was standing beside me. The next moment he was gone. 57 years old. Just like that. The months after his death were some of the hardest of my life. And during those months, my family behaved exactly the way they always had whenever money entered the conversation. They started circling. My brother Dwayne suddenly wanted to discuss family finances. My mother kept mentioning what Gerald would have wanted. My Aunt Carol offered advice nobody asked for. And my sister-in-law Phyllis somehow knew details about my finances I never remembered sharing. At the time, I thought it was annoying. Later, I realized it was something much worse. What made the betrayal harder was that Marcus, my other brother, actually seemed supportive. He called regularly, checked on me, brought groceries over more than once, sat on my porch one Sunday afternoon, and told me that if I ever needed help, he would be there. I remember being grateful. I remember thinking maybe grief had brought our family closer. Looking back, I think Marcus was gathering information, and while I was trying to rebuild my life after losing Gerald, someone was quietly building a plan. I didn't learn that until the afternoon I met Dana Pruitt. She led me into a conference room. There was a folder waiting on the table. A box of tissues sat beside it. Dana sat down across from me and said she needed to show me something. Then she turned a monitor toward me. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Security footage, a branch office, someone sitting across from an insurance representative. Then the man shifted in his chair, and my stomach dropped. Marcus, my brother, wearing a navy button-down shirt I recognized instantly. The same shirt he wore whenever he wanted people to think he was responsible. I watched him smile. I watched him shake hands. I watched him sit comfortably in that chair. Then I watched him sign my name. My name, without hesitation, without guilt, without even appearing nervous. The room suddenly felt smaller. Dana let the footage play. Marcus looked completely relaxed, like a man conducting ordinary business. Not a man committing fraud. Not a man trying to steal from his widowed sister. I wasn't angry yet. Angry would have been easier. I was confused, because I couldn't understand how my own brother had gone from comforting me after Gerald's funeral to forging my signature. Dana paused the video. Then she began explaining what her investigation had uncovered. The story got worse with every sentence. Someone had submitted paperwork requesting a $90,000 loan against my life insurance policy. Not a beneficiary update. Not a withdrawal. A policy loan. A structure designed to create confusion if questions were ever asked later. Whoever planned it had done their homework. The request included my policy number, my identification information, and forged authorization documents. That alone was shocking. But Dana wasn't finished. The policy number had likely been obtained during Gerald's repast. While family members filled my living room and offered condolences, someone had gone through paperwork inside my house. Dana didn't have to tell me who. I already knew. Phyllis. The same woman who treated private information like a public service announcement. Then came the notary. Marcus had used a man operating out of a strip mall in Gary, Indiana. A notary whose license had already been suspended months earlier. The man eventually admitted everything. The forged paperwork, the payment, the false authorization, every detail. The deeper Dana went into the investigation, the more impossible it became to dismiss any of it as a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was a plan. A calculated plan. And the only reason it failed was because of one employee. 2 years earlier, Gerald and I had visited the branch together. The representative who helped us that day remembered me. Remembered my face. So when Marcus appeared with documents carrying my name, something didn't feel right. She trusted her instincts. She flagged the request. And because she did, the fraud division got involved before a single dollar moved. Dana looked at me and said something I'll always appreciate. Your policy didn't save you, Ms. Sims. People paying attention saved you. Then she slid another document across the table. An authorization form. Once signed, investigators could move forward officially. I stared at that piece of paper. For the first time all afternoon, everything felt real. This wasn't family drama anymore. This wasn't an argument waiting to happen. This was a criminal case. Once I signed, there was no taking it back. I thought about Gerald. 18 years of premiums, 18 years of planning, 18 years spent making sure I would be protected if something happened to him. Then I thought about Marcus sitting comfortably in that chair, signing my name like it belonged to him. I picked up the pen, signed, and slid the form back across the table. Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Dana. The police had gone to Marcus's apartment. He answered the door himself. According to the officers, he looked confused at first, then shocked, then angry. By the end of the conversation, he was in handcuffs. By lunchtime, half the family knew. By dinner, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mother called crying. Dwayne called demanding explanations. Phyllis suddenly wanted everyone to calm down. Even relatives I hadn't spoken to in years somehow found my number. The message was always the same. Family, family, family. Everybody suddenly cared about family. Nobody seemed concerned about family when Marcus was forging my signature. Nobody seemed concerned about family when he tried. To take $90,000 from a policy Gerald paid into for 18 years. Family became important only after he got caught. The hardest call came from my mother. She accused me of betraying my brother. She said Gerald would be ashamed. She said blood should mean something. I let her finish. Then I answered. Mama, Gerald bought that policy to protect me. Silence. Marcus tried to take that protection away. More silence. The only person who betrayed family was the person who committed the fraud. She hung up, and for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel guilty. 4 months later, Marcus accepted a plea deal. Felony fraud conviction. Restitution. Probation. A permanent public record documenting exactly what he had done. No excuses, no family revision of history. Just facts. The kind that don't change. Before leaving the insurance office that first day, I stopped by the representative's desk. The woman who had flagged the paperwork. The woman whose instincts prevented everything. I thanked her. She smiled and told me she was only doing her job. Maybe she was. But 18 years after Gerald signed that policy, his plan still worked. He wanted me protected. And because one employee paid attention, I was. People often think protection arrives in dramatic ways. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it looks like a sharp-eyed woman behind a desk, who remembers a face she met 2 years earlier. And sometimes that's exactly enough.